This final episode of Coffee on the Road is from Yosemite National Park in California. Yosemite is in the Sierra Nevada mountains and known for its massive granite cliffs, sequoia trees, majestic waterfalls like Yosemite Falls and Brideville Falls, and mountain climbing hotspots like El Capitan. I thought it was time for me to get my hands dirty and open up my own demo cafe on the road. So I made some beignets from scratch. This batch contained some condensed milk that I tried to measure carefully and pour on in. I then mix in some sugar that is followed by a few eggs. Then I put in a little bit of salt and some tasty vanilla, and I give that all a real good mix. At the same time, the yeast is blooming in some warm water. I mix in the flour and then fold everything together before it goes into the mixer. This batch was a little too floury and it's supposed to be more sticky, so I ended up making a second batch with less flour and more milk. I then roll out the dough so it's not too thin and that we'll be able to puff up in the hot oil. I start cutting the edges and removing excess. I try my best to cut out square pieces that will expand when frying. Here are the two batches that I will serve to the employees of Yosemite Lakes Campground. They go into the fryer at 355 degrees until they puff up and are golden brown, and then they'll get flipped over and cook on both sides. Then they get covered in a dusting of powdered sugar before they are finally ready to serve. Here at my coffee station, I have a grinder, I have a water boiler, I have all my espresso tools, I have the machine, another grinder to be able to do pour-overs, and then we have the deep fryer to do the beignets. In the background, we have a grill where we did bacon, eggs, and sausage and pancakes, and then we have hot plates to keep it warm for the workers. I think this was a good way to kind of share the experience of coffee on the road, going to cafes with everyone here at the campground. As this is the final episode, I will summarize our carbon footprint over the course of the year on the road. Our carbon footprint was less than stationary life in the USA, and this was because of two main factors. For one, we drove less than the average couple drives in a year. When towing the travel trailer, we were careful not to drive any unnecessary miles. Also, once we arrived to a campground, we were careful not to drive too often or too far away so that we could keep an eye on the trailer. We traveled a total of 12,000 miles, and this compares to the average couple that travels twice this, around 24,000 miles in a year. And point number two, our energy usage was less simply because we lived in a smaller space. We lived about 1/3 the average apartment in the US and much less than the average home. We were two people living in under 300 square feet of living space, and this compares to the USA average apartment rental of roughly 900 square feet. To think about this in terms of carbon footprint, there's less space that you need to heat and cool. This is a smaller area to clean using energy-consuming methods, such as we didn't have very large vacuum cleaners or anything like that. We didn't have a washer or dryer on the ready, and we used community machines less frequently than average. To close, this 1 year of RV life left a much smaller carbon footprint than the average US couple. Now, this isn't saying a lot because the USA has one of the largest carbon footprints in the world, but this is a step in the right direction, and this was done just by simply living in a smaller space and driving less so that we could stay closer to the trailer. We could have done a lot more if we would have placed this as a much higher priority, such as we could have bought an eco-friendlier hybrid or electric truck if we had the resources, specifically money. Or we could have used things like solar panels to power some of our devices, and we could have changed our diets. These are things that we'll think about if we return to this RV life in the future.